Hi, everyone.
Hello. Ray has reached the subhead in Challenging Christian Freedom, Resisting the Crippling Power of Bitterness. This is page 647 in Search of Christian Freedom. Our freedom will never be complete if we allow resentment over our past experiences in an unfree system to take root in our hearts, to create a spirit of bitterness that impregnates our thoughts, speech, and actions. On the one hand, such feelings are understandable. Some of those thus affected had non-witness parents who possibly were members of another religion. Because of the Watchtower organization's indoctrination, for years they had relatively little to do with those parents, were distant toward them, treated them coolly because of their parents' disinterest in or rejection of the truth. The alienating process often began from the start when they were told that their becoming witnesses would be opposed by God's adversary, and family members were cited as possible instruments in such satanic opposition, if through nothing more than through efforts at discouraging further involvement. Viewing matters in this light could not help but color their feelings toward parents who did not buy into their new religion with them. Now they have come to realize that the belief system they equated with the truth is a system that, along with a measure of truth, also contains some very serious and fundamental errors. And moreover, that it was the teachings built on those errors that were the very ones causing them to express such coldness toward others, their parents included. In some cases, they could renew the expression of natural affection they owe those who were their source of life on earth, who fed them, provided for them, and cared for them, loved them with parental love. In other cases, they could not. Their parents had already died. They are beyond their reaching to reconfirm their love for them. The sense of remorse this can produce is difficult to measure.
Those with marriage mates may have gone through comparable experiences. Many had basically good marriages, but when they became part of the Watchtower organization and their mate did not, at times the strain, a strain not attributable to their thereafter manifesting more fully the qualities exemplified by God's Son, but instead due to their striving to respond to organizational pressures and submit fully to organizational rules and policies, resulted in a weakening or a dissolution of the marriage. In the latter case, the breakup of the family may have also adversely affected children. To realize that it did not have to have happened that way is not an easy thought to bear. What was broken in such cases can rarely be reconstructed.
I think of one woman who, during the many years of her marriage, though a loyal wife to her non-witness husband, dutifully viewed him as of the world and also refrained from having children by him, since the end was so near. Not long after, she realized that the organization's claims to, in effect, speak for God were not legitimate, and at a time when her appreciation of her husband's good qualities had been renewed and heightened, he was suddenly killed in an auto accident. The thought of what their marriage might have been and produced, had she not been governed by misconceptions, increased her grief far beyond its normal reach, was crushingly depressing.
Mm-hmm. There's a footnote about this same woman. Though no longer associating, she nonetheless had a witness funeral conducted by a local elder. Many of her husband's friends and business associates, like him not witnesses, attended. The elder's funeral talk consisted entirely of argument in support of the organization's teachings on the subject of death. Of her husband, the person he was, what could be learned from his life, the qualities he manifested, nothing was said. That was the final touch, both confirming her decision to withdraw and causing her sense of regret to overflow. And that's the end of the footnote. Ray continues, others reared their children within the organizational framework and inculcated in them the concept that the organization was God's earthly channel and had exclusive claim to his direction and favor. When integrity to biblical truth in time caused them to take a stand based on conscience, they found themselves cut off from their own children, had the devastating experience of seeing their children accept the organization's labeling of them, their parents, as apostates, persons to be shunned. To hear of a son or a daughter getting married and then to be excluded from those invited to the wedding. To learn of the birth of a grandchild and not be invited, even allowed to see the child, can produce enormous pain of heart. Hundreds, even thousands of parents and grandparents have experienced or are yet experiencing that pain.
For others, there is the realization of lost time that can never be regained. Years of life spent pursuing goals that, though dressed up by terms such as theocratic goals or theocratic careers and described as putting kingdom interests first and making wise use of the yet remaining time, were ultimately goals without true substance, true worth, true meaning. They thought, as I did, that they were working to bring people to God in Christ, and for this they were happy to give all they had. In the end, they realized that the organization appropriated the people to itself, subordinated them to itself, viewed them as obligated to it for whatever they had received. This has left those laboring zealously with the sense of having been used, induced to make sacrifices of time, strength, resources, and talents on an organizational altar, all for the furtherance of that organization and its interests. The sense of feeling cheated of unrecoverable assets far more valuable than money, can result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard not to feel, certainly you feel regret, but it's also hard not to feel some bitterness. But I think his point is you shouldn't let it root, because that'll eat you alive, the bitterness.
It'll probably result in you consuming the rest of your years fruitlessly, just like you did the prior decades maybe.
Right. Whereas you could have some fruitful years ahead of you if you
celebrate your freedom.
Yeah, well, and start over, making right decisions, good decisions, and work on what you do have.
I like his phrase, organizational altar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're going to link to a video, was about the concluding pages of Ray's book, Crisis of Conscience, where you can see very clearly Ray refuses to be bitter. I'll put that up.